I had been unemployed for exactly 8 months and 12 days when the email arrived in my inbox. My bank account was overdrawn, the eviction notices were piling up on my kitchen counter, and I was skipping meals to make a bag of rice last an entire week. Desperation changes the way your brain processes risk. When you have absolutely nothing left to lose, red flags just look like ordinary banners waving in the wind. The job offer came from an elite law firm located in a massive, black glass skyscraper downtown. I had applied for a generic data entry position through a third-party recruiting website weeks ago, entirely forgetting about the application until they contacted me to schedule a midnight interview. I put on my only clean suit and took the late bus into the city center. The building was completely deserted when I arrived. A silent security guard checked my identification and directed me to a service elevator that only went down. The interview did not take place in a polished boardroom with mahogany tables and leather chairs. It happened in a windowless, concrete sub-basement illuminated by harsh, buzzing fluorescent lights. The man who interviewed me wore an expensive tailored suit that looked entirely out of place in the sterile, dusty environment. He asked me very few questions about my previous work experience. He mainly wanted to know about my personal life. He asked if I lived alone, if I had any close family members nearby, and how well I handled working in complete isolation. I answered honestly, explaining that I was entirely independent and desperately needed a steady income. He offered me the job immediately. The salary he quoted was staggering. It was more money than I had made in the last 3 years combined. My title would be Archival Disposal Technician, and my shift would run from midnight until 8 in the morning. My only responsibility was to operate an industrial, room-sized paper shredder to destroy old case files and classified corporate documents. I accepted the position without a second thought. I would have agreed to sweep toxic waste for that kind of money. The man nodded, handed me a heavy brass keycard, and walked me over to a large bulletin board mounted on the concrete wall next to the machine. A single sheet of laminated paper was pinned to the corkboard. "These are the operational guidelines," the man said, his voice flat and completely devoid of emotion. "Read them carefully. Follow them exactly. I will be back at 8 in the morning to relieve you." He turned and walked back to the service elevator. The heavy metal doors slid shut, and the elevator hummed as it ascended, leaving me completely alone in the sprawling, windowless basement. I walked over to the bulletin board to read the guidelines. I expected standard corporate safety warnings about keeping loose clothing away from the moving gears or wearing protective safety glasses. Instead, the laminated sheet contained only 3 typed sentences. Rule 1. Do not read the contents of the red folders. Rule 2. If the shredder jams and begins to leak a red, viscous fluid, unplug it and face the corner until the humming stops. Rule 3. If you find a photograph of yourself in the pile of documents, shred it immediately without breaking eye contact with it. Rule 4. If you hear someone knocking on the heavy steel elevator doors at 3 in the morning, do not let the door knocker enter the room. I stood there staring at the paper for a long time. The rules made absolutely no logical sense. They sounded like a prank, the kind of hazing ritual older employees use to terrify the new hire on the night shift. I assumed the management team had left the sign there to test my ability to follow instructions without asking questions. Elite corporate firms are notorious for their eccentric paranoia regarding document security and employee compliance. I decided I would simply do exactly what I was paid to do, feed paper into a machine and collect my paycheck. I turned my attention to the shredder. It was a massive piece of industrial equipment.